Hi, my name is Doug, and this is my poker vlog. We're here playing a $500 a day 1-3 challenge. This is day 7 of the challenge. It's a exciting day. Has lots of action, some big pots, and some really nasty coolers. So stay tuned and enjoy the ride. All right, we're back at Capital, going for another $500 win. It's a little chilly this morning, but it's a beautiful day. So let's go ahead and head inside and see how we do. So the first hand we end up playing is a pair of threes. It's a limp pot, 5-way action. Flop comes ace, deuce, deuce. Doesn't help anyone, so I take a little stab at it for $8, hoping everybody will fold out. I get one caller to my right. He's the type of player that could have a deuce, could have an ace, and want to slow play it. He will also float you and try to take it away from you later on. So the turn card comes as a blank. It doesn't really help me, so I check it back. River card comes as a 3. So now I'm hoping he has something. He leads at me for 8. I'm pretty sure he's just taking the stab, but I'm going to push in my stack here, and hopefully he has a deuce and he'll pay me off. He thinks for a while, and then he just lets it go. Please take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help. Thanks for your support.
All right.
All right, here we have kings, and we open for a raise to 13, and everybody folds. A sign of things to come. Later on, we pick up Jack 9 of clubs. We go ahead and put in a little raise. You get a caller. Flop comes 9 high, so I go ahead and continue for 15, and the player calls me. Turn card comes is no help, so I go ahead and take another stab for 30 this time. It's possible he has a flush draw here. Just want to get value out of the flush draw. He calls again, and we're off to the river. River card is a brick, doesn't help. I check it here, seeing if he wants to take a stab at it with the missed flush draw, and he just checks it back. So I'll take it down with my pair of 9s. Here's a perfect example of how not to play pocket jacks. I limped in under the gun. It gets folded around to the button, who makes it 15. The big blind calls the 15, and I go ahead and make it 60 now with my jacks. The button thinks for a little bit, and then he goes ahead and makes the call for the 60, and the big blind folds, so we're heads up to the flop. The flop is not a good one. It comes ace high, but he did flash me one of his cards was a black 8. And so I thought he had pocket 8s, but there was a chance he had ace 8. So I make a bet for $40, and he calls. This player is playing very loose, playing strange hands, and I'm going to have a few more hands with him later on. Doesn't really change much. I jam, thinking that if he has ace 8, there's no way he's going to be able to call a jam. And he snaps it off right away and turns over ace 8. Never bluff a calling station. All right, this hand's against the same player. He raised my blind, and I defended with king jack. The flop comes queen 10 5. I check it to him, and he checks it back. So with this open ender, I'm going to go ahead and take a stab at it on the turn. He puts in a raise, which is a little surprising. At this point, I'm in no mood to fold. So when he puts in that raise, I decided just to ship it. He quickly calls the remaining of my stack. I thought a king or jack might be good here. Definitely ace or a nine. As I said, I was in no mood to fold, especially this player. The river card comes as an ace, which makes me the nuts. So I got lucky on this one because I'm sure he had me beat. As you can see, I'm playing like garbage today, so please don't do what I do. Play better. All right, I raised with ace queen for 13. We go 5 ways to the flop. Flop is interesting. It comes ace, queen, 3, all hearts. So I flop top 2. It gets checked to me. I put in a bet for $21. It's folded around to the button, the same person who's I've been up against the last couple hands. And he puts in basically a min raise. He raises 30 on top of it. And for $30, I'm not going anywhere. I think he probably has a flush at this point. But I'm hoping to catch a good card and get stacks in. So the turn card is a good one. It is an ace. So I make the nuts here with the aces full of queens. He looks over at my stack and he decides to bet 90. At this point, I really should just stick it all in because if he has a flush like I'm pretty sure he does, he's definitely going to call me off after the last play I made on him. But I decided just to smooth call because I wanted him to bet into me on the river and so I can snap him off, which is a mistake because the river card comes is an ace. And with 3 aces on board, I didn't think there's any way he was going to call me. But he said, if you got it, you got it. And he snap calls me and I turn over the 4 aces. And it was very nice to take down this pot. And we're off to the next hand. So after stacking all those chips, I look down and I find 2 black aces. I open to a raise for 12. I get a caller to my left, and then the player on the button, who was the player from the previous hand, shoves his remaining stack in, which is only $20. So when it comes back around to me, I can't raise or anything. It doesn't reopen the betting. So the only thing I can do is call for the $20, and therefore the player behind me calls. So we're off to see a flop, and it comes down jack, 9, 4, all diamonds. And I don't have a diamond in sight. I do a little feeler bet for 15 just to see where I'm at. And the player reacts like he wants to raise, but doesn't. So I'm a little nervous. He flopped a flush. So I throw out another little $15 feeler because I don't want to give him a free card if he's drawn. But he's not drawn. He raised to 75, and instantly I knew my hand was no good. I threw away the aces face up, and he did show a flush to take it down. The next hand, it was a live 6, and so I raised to 25, trying to isolate a player. And I have a player call behind me. Everyone else folds. This is the same player I was up against when he flopped his flush. So I flop a pair of aces and I check it to him, see if he wants to take a stab at it. He doesn't. Turn card comes as a blank. I check once more. I don't think he has much. He checks it back. So the river card comes and it's another blank. And I decided I'll check it to him one more time because, I just folded to him when he made a bet. He might get encouragement. So sure enough, he bets 35. I quickly call, and he instantly mucks his hand. All right, look down at 2 black jacks. It was a live 6, so I opened for 21. It's folded around to the button, who puts in the call, and it's folded to the opener, who also calls for the 21. So with 3 players, we go to a flop, and the flop is 10, 4, 3, rainbow. So when it gets checked to me, I'm pretty sure I'm in a good spot here, so I go ahead and make a larger size bet to 45. The button folds, and then the live 6 player looks like he wants to do something, and then he just puts out the call. So I'm not sure what that's all about. I don't know whether he was trying to make a play or was just trying to slow me down, but he definitely has me worried. He can have any 2 cards here. The turn card comes is a 9, and I decided to go into pot control. I am concerned that he has a hand. I just don't know what it is. So when he checks it to me, I just check it back. And I was planning to call just about anything on the river. River card comes as a king of hearts. Now he checks to me again, and I decided to go for a little value, put out a bet for 35, and he says, your king's good, and he folds. He later told me he had ace 10.
It wasn't a picture.
All right, it's a live 6. Now I look down at 10-8 of diamonds. I limp in, and the next player raises to 15. The small blind calls for the 15. The original live 6 player calls for the 15, and so do I. So we go 4 ways to the flop, and the flop is Jack, 9, 7. Jack 9 of spades, 7 of diamonds. So I flop a straight and backdoor flush draw. It gets checked to me. I check it. The original raiser now puts out a bet for 25. The small blind thinks for a while and ends up releasing his hand. The player who made it a live 6 now calls for the 25. And I figure this is a good time to go ahead and put in a raise. So I go ahead and make it 95. So it's a $70 raise. The original bettor thinks for a moment, kind of looks at his stack, and then makes the call. He has probably about another 120 behind. With that stack size, I'm pretty sure we're going to get stacks in on the turn. The player who called the 25, he goes ahead and releases his hand. So we're heads up, heading for the turn. In my mind, I was thinking, just don't put up a spade, don't put up a 10. And sure enough, the dealer turns over the 10 of spades. But at this point, as I said, I was already going to get stacks in. There's no way I'm going to fold to a bet here for $120. He might call off with a set or a pair, 2 pair, or some sort of hand. So I go ahead and jam, and he insta-calls with the nut flush. And this was the start of a horrific downfall. On this next hand, I have Queen 10 of diamonds. It's a live 6. And it gets raised by the player out back, the one who just made the flush against me. And I go ahead and give it a call for 21. So we have 5 players seeing the flop for $21. The flop comes Jack 9 5 with 2 hearts and 1 diamond. So I flop a open-end straight draw with a backdoor flush draw. Now the re-raiser that was in the small blind puts out a bet for 35. The person to my right calls, I call, and the person behind me calls. So we're off to see a turn card, 4-way action. Hey, I want to take this moment to say thank you for watching. I hope you're enjoying the content. If you do, please like and subscribe. It can really help out the channel. Also, I want to give a shout out to Chuck over at Happy Face Hold'em. He's another vlogger. If you haven't seen his vlog, please go check it out. He's getting close to 1,000 subscribers. He can really use the help getting over that mark. So if you have a moment, go check it out for me. I'm sure he'll appreciate it. All right, the turn card was a 7 of clubs. This doesn't help me at all. The player in the small blind now starts to assemble a bet. He originally counted out about 80 chips, and I was thinking to myself, yeah, I can probably call an $80 bet to draw it at this hand, and if I get lucky, I can get my stack in. Then he kind of increased his bet, to about 120, and I'm going, oh God, I don't think I can do this. And finally, he settles on a bet of 150. I really can't call this. I looked at my stack and tried to justify it because I'm a little bit stuck and have a little bit more gamble in me. But when it comes right down to it, it would be an awful decision. And I made too many awful decisions already today. No, I'm not playing my A game here. And I'm happy that I made the choice to let it go because the pot odds just weren't there. And I just throw it in the muck. So after I mucked the hand, I looked over at the player next to me, and he's still interested in it. And I'm sure he has some sort of flush draw going, probably a combo flush draw. So he goes ahead and counts out the 150 in chips, and he eventually puts it in. And the two players end up going to the river with $545 now in the pot.
Now we can see the red one. What would be the red one?
Heads up.
After the dealer pulls in all the chips into the center of the pot, he turns over the 4 of hearts. The first player checks now. The second player goes ahead and jams for the rest of his stack, which is about $120. The first player now tanks. He knows he's probably up against a flush, but for $120, can you really lay it down? The pot is very large at this point, and I think he's going to be forced to call off for 120. Not much he can do here. So he eventually puts the money in, and the player out back turns over the Jack 8 of hearts for the flush and takes it down.
Nice flush. Nice.
All right, here I have a pair of 7s. It was a live 6. And one player limps in for the 6. Next player raises to 26. I defend with 2 7s. Player behind me calls. The original live 6 player calls. And then the person who limped in originally for $6 shoves his stack in. It's a very strong move. It's a move you see possibly with an ace-king, ace-queen, or a pocket pair larger than 7s. So I don't know what I was thinking, especially when the original raiser to 26 to my right makes the call. This thing should go in the muck, and in the muck so fast it makes your head spin. But I made an awful play, and I stuck in the remaining of my stack drawn to a 2-outer. I'm not happy with my play, and I got what I deserved.
I call.
So anyway, when the person to my right calls, I go ahead and call also. The flop comes 8, 10, 3, and the original person who shoved shows over pocket 10s and takes down the pot.
You said 180 total, right? 180 total, yeah.
All right, as I was buying chips, player opened to 18 on my right. I just flatted on the button with kings. The flop comes 9-4-3. He bets 25. I raise to 75, and he shoves all in. So I put my $300 stack right in action, and I run into a pair of aces. Not a good day at all. So after reloading, I come across a king-queen offsuit in the blind, and I go ahead and raise it to 20, and I get 3 callers. So we have a 4-way action going to the flop for $80. Flop is nothing, it's 9 high. I check it, it gets checked around. Turn card comes a deuce, I check again, and it gets checked around again. River card comes, pairs the 9s, it gets checked around one more time, and I finally win a pot with king high. I look down at ace queen offsuit, open to a raise for 15. I end up getting 3 callers. The flop comes down jack 9-5. First player in the blind looked like he was interested in it, and he checked to me, so I go ahead and check behind. And the player behind me bets 25. Then the small blind and the big blind both call, and I just give up on the hand, and it hits the muck. I pick up ace jack offsuit and open for a raise to 15, and I get 2 callers. Flop is pretty good. It's ace queen 7. And when it gets checked to me, I go ahead and bet out $30. And I end up getting 1 caller on the button. Turn card is a pretty good one too. It's a 10. It makes a possible straight or 2 pair for someone with floating with queen 10. But I think I'm still good here, so I go ahead and bet out 60. And the person on the button goes into the tank for a while. And after a few seconds, he decides on a fold. And I'm happy to take this one down. All right, this hand I'm in the big blind, look down at pocket 9s. First player opens for a raise to 20. He gets 2 callers to me. I go ahead and defend with my pair of 9s. The flop is jack 4-3 with the 4-3 of clubs. I check it to the original raiser. He checks, and then the next player goes ahead and just shoves all his chips in. The following player folds, it comes back around to me. I got nothing here. I end up folding, and the player behind me also folds. And the original shover goes ahead and shows that he had the jack of clubs. This is a 7-way limp pot, and I call on the button with 9-8 of spades. So with 7 SC in the flop, it comes 8-3-7 with 1 spade. It gets checked around to me. I decided to go ahead and bet 15. I get a quick call from the person on my left, then one other caller for 15, and the other players fold. The turn card comes is a king of spades. This gives me a backdoor flush draw, and when it's checked to me, I decided to go ahead and bet again, this time for 25, and both players make the fold, and I take down a small pot. Shortly after this hand, my 5 hours of playing time was up, and I cashed out. I was in for 13, out for 690. That's a 610 loss. Just finished up, and wow, run good is gone. That was brutal. Anyway, whew.